Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Station Road. I thought I'd just begin by saying a huge thank you to all the new subscribers that have joined my channel, and also the enormous amount of views and comments on my previous video about Middleton Railway. It's just amazing, so encouraging, so a big thank you to everyone. Once again, I'm out of town and have been for nearly 3.5 weeks now. The reason for this is I'm looking after my parents as they are shifting into some rest home care. I can't wait to get back to my layout in Christchurch, but in the meantime, here is another interesting video. And this one here, this is actually some more footage that I took last weekend when we were at Middleton Railway, and a link for that video from last week. One of the topics that came up that Colin talked about was track cleaning. So as we know, track cleaning, as I mentioned before, can be quite a bugbear for any model railway person. And of course you can buy reasonably pricey track cleaning equipment and fluids and all sorts of manner of contraptions. So from the video that I was taking last week at Middleton Railway, of course I had to ask Colin, how do you keep all that track clean? And as I mentioned in that previous video, there is, I think from memory, over 900 feet of track, and I assumed that he would have purchased or have professional track cleaning cars or coaches, and he did actually have one there. There was a Daypole track cleaning wagon that he does use for certain parts of his track, but surprisingly he came up with a very interesting way of cleaning your track. So I've managed to pull together a few components that Colin has actually used in this invention. The first thing that I found really extraordinary is that to clean his track he uses balsa wood. Now I have normally used sort of extremely fine grit sandpaper or scouring pads or the track rubbers, just depending on how dirty the track gets. But he has been using balsa wood, and even just pieces of it, and it doesn't really leave any grit or residue from like a track rubber would do, nor is it harsh or abrasive on the actual head of the rail. So I thought, well, how on earth does that work? So we're talking about a 1.5mm piece of balsa wood, and unfortunately I don't have any track here. So the idea is you just simply rub this over the track if you're going to hand clean the rails, and it works really well, and the grime actually comes off on the balsa wood. I will try this when I get back to my layout. Now the interesting thing is, in this video clip that is going to come up very shortly, is actually which was taken last weekend, demonstrates a very clever invention which involves a piece of balsa wood like so. It also includes a couple of knitting needles and this is my mum's knitting needle which I borrowed, and a Lima shell, or it doesn't necessarily have to be shell, I guess, a Lima tank wagon, long wheelbase tank wagon, and that there is a picture just popping up right now of that. So I will now switch over to this video clip which shows how he's made this work, and it is really quite incredible.
Slide, if you like,
Oh, I see. So you're not using springs or anything?
No, I decided this was
weight.
by weighting the slide, the wagon can actually be quite light, and you really don't need springs. That works
you've
well.
got up underneath. You've drilled holes underneath the wagon.
This is the top of 2 knitting needles and a piece of plastic.
Oh my goodness!
It's got enough flexibility to ride over an uncoupling ramp.
And you've just got 2 bolts for weight.
Just a little bit of weight. No, you don't want too much, otherwise the loco can't pull it.
And then underneath that, it's just a piece of balsa wood.
Just a balsa wood post. See how dirty it gets.
Goodness me! And so is that glued or double-sided tape?
Double-sided tape.
And then you just replace that once in a while.
Yeah, every certain number of hours of running.
Oh, that's brilliant!
I've actually got an automatic counter on the layout that records the number of hours of running, so it takes the guesswork out of it. That should really be replaced. It's pretty dirty, so I just rip that off and stick another one on. I usually keep a few made up ready.
And the knitting needles are just glued to a plastic.
Yeah, the piece of styrene sheet. Yes. Yeah, and it's surprisingly robust. You'd think ripping these off would break everything, but it doesn't seem to. And,
wow.
Yeah, the combination. Yeah, and I only use these wagons because they're cheap and they've got a long wheelbase. And if you remove the pipes, you've got a hole in the floor to take the nuts going up inside.
Oh, I see.
So
you don't happen to have any of them for sale, do you? So, there is the invention, and I am a huge advocate for different ways of modelling, how to come up with a solution to a problem that doesn't involve rushing off to the model store and buying £200 worth of gear. So this is a prime example of ingenuity and left field thinking, and to me this is what model railroading is all about. It is about thinking outside the box, thinking outside the square, and finding different ways of doing the same thing. I will sign off now, and I do hope you enjoyed today's video and gained some inspiration and ideas for your layouts. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to receive notifications. I will see you next time, and thank you. Goodbye.